very good Sunday evening to you. This is Bob Mills with you for the next 3 hours here on Talk Radio with Tragedy Plus Time, where we look at the thorny world of light entertainment and comedy. Thank you very much to John Nicholson for his 3 hours of incisive and concise political debate. Let me get straight into tonight's show. We've spoken over the years on this show about joke theft. People love talking about it, and they love phoning in about it and text, oh, joke theft, I saw this guy do this show. Joke theft is 99% of the time not joke theft. 99% it's simply the mundane fact that sometimes two comics have the same idea, and especially if it's topical, okay? It does exist and it is there, and there have been some fantastic examples that you may not even have ever heard of because they've been sorted out in back rooms and dressing rooms. But in general, it doesn't. And there is a whole problem of people having ideas and thinking, I had this idea, and there's someone did it. And it's something you have to sometimes take, and think, well, this sort of thing's happened. There wouldn't be a Count Arthur Strong had there not been a Bernard Chumley, maybe, and these things go on. But at the moment, in the comedy world, we're looking a little bit askance because we saw an announcement that Channel 4 are making a television programme. And we said, what are they making a programme? Oh, it's about an African dictator who's living in this country. And all said, Benjamin's cracked it. That's good. It's good. It's about time, someone got hold of Benjamin Bellows' character, President Obonjo, which he's been doing for probably close to 10 years. And they're making a programme of it. Well done. And some people were a bit, how come we've got a programme and I haven't got a programme? But in general. And then, of course, we learn it's nothing to do with Benjamin. Benjamin is with me now. Benjamin Bellow. Hello, sir.
How are you, sir?
So how did you first find out about this totally original idea that Channel 4 have come up with absolutely no, not even looking at your character?
Okay, so I was on Twitter and I saw a tweet from Chottle Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was titled E4 Pilot African Dictator. And I just thought, this is an interesting headline. Let me have a read and see what this is all about. And I read it, and I'm the sort of person who likes to read twice. Mm-hmm. I read the first time. I saw the comment from Steve Bennett that the character is very similar to what President Obonjo has been doing for the past 10 years. I read it again, and then it sunk in, and I said, wow, this is interesting. This is an interesting development. And I just posted it on Twitter to say, interesting development, and I did that in character. And before I knew it, the whole thing just turned into something else that I wasn't expecting. And over the last couple of days, it's been interesting. It's been 10 years of hard work. 10 years of hard work. I'm sure you know. You've been doing comedy for me for who knows how long. And, when I compare myself to you, I'm just a baby who's just learning to work.
But 10 years, this is it, 10 years. Listen, we know that there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah. We're aware of that. I mean, very often when I look at President Obonjo, it reminds me of the Idi Amin diaries that Alan Coren wrote. There's nothing new under the sun. We know that. And we know that Channel 4 will almost certainly, legally, be completely within their rights to have come up with this idea. But sometimes you think, just because something's legal doesn't make it right. And when you think, now, hang on a minute, we know this guy. This guy's been doing this character, building this character. Mm-hmm. It's not an act that he did it and it worked, so he just carried on to. He builds on it. Yeah. He's got a big profile on social media. Yeah. He doesn't just do stand-up. You can see his social media. So to suddenly think, well, someone has thought, that's a really good idea. Well, that's a really good. We'll do that ourselves. Just, I don't know, surely there's more than legality in the world. There should be some kind of morality as well.
Well, I agree with the morality side of it because, 10 years is no joke. And I hear people talk about Idi Amin Dada. The inspiration for that character, President Obonjo, wasn't Idi Amin Dada. Very briefly, it was a case of during the time that President Obama was running for presidency, my wife was supporting Hillary Clinton. I was supporting Obama. Obama becomes president. my wife switches allegiance, and all of a sudden, it's as if she's in love with Obama. Obama in the house every single day. It got to a stage that she bought me 2 books to read, The Audacity of Hope and Dreams of My Father. And I just thought, wow, how am I going to get my wife back? Obviously, she's in love with the president. So I created President Obonjo. Obonjo is a nickname. And I created President Obonjo. And then you might remember the time when Obama was campaigning and he said, yes, we can. And then there was, I think after a couple of years, he was facing issues with the Republicans. And then he said, oh, yes, but we can. And I just thought, what would an African president do if Obama was really behaving like an African president? He will become a dictator. Yeah. And that's how I developed the character over the years. And actually, the inspiration was Obama, because my wife was attracted to Obama, and I wanted her back. And she's got a president at home now, so,
it's a wonderful piece of nonsense, President Obonjo.
Yeah, it is a wonderful piece of nonsense.
That's exactly what it is. It's very funny. It's satire, I suppose. Yeah. The idea of an African dictator, we look in the papers and we know there are African dictators, even since Amin, and we think they do terrible things. But the great thing is to be able to laugh at them, and say,
But I'm doing the opposite of all the African dictators, because I think with the character, it's well loved, it's developing a cult following, because it's doing the opposite of a dictator. He's actually a very friendly, lovable character that people just love.
Yeah, except you do sometimes start your show by saying, I'm President Obonjo, welcome to the show. You may find it funny. If you don't laugh, you'll be shot. Yeah, so, I mean, there is always that side.
you know the character very well. But it's done in a very friendly way. It's done in a friendly way. But it's not just the fact that, the character is the President Obonjo, and the name President Obonjo. Even my real name, as you know, is Benjamin Bankole Bello. Bankole Banjoko, Obonjo, Banjoko. They talk about the fact that it's a fictional country. I created a fictional country called Laughter Republic. Mm-hmm. We have our own national anthem. We're very close to Wakanda. Look, this is real serious stuff that I thought about in terms of my vision. And when I read that article, I think what really disappointed me was that, are they saying they didn't know I was aware? I mean, this is about common sense. I know the British educational system is a bit messed up at the moment, but whoever is doing their research should have researched and said, oh, there's an African dictator out there who's performing, maybe he might suit the role. I don't know.
Or maybe he might want to get involved,
exactly, some kind of collaboration. This is publicity that I didn't really want. I'm a very, even though I think that's one of the reasons why I play the character, I'm a very shy individual, and the character gives me that confidence in terms of public speaking and so on and so forth. So this has come as a bit of a shock. But I must say, because I know the comedy community is listening, I want to thank everybody, because lots of comedians have tweeted about it, have really supported me. There's someone who's actually done a podcast on President Obonjo. I never dreamt of this 10 years ago. So, the comedy community has really rallied around, and I want to thank them for that.
Well, I think we're disappointed, and we're disappointed because, listen, it's the older story in the book. I wrote Love Me Tender, or people, we know that this happens, and we know that people lay claim to things, but we know how comedy works, and we know that people have ideas, and very quickly someone else can have idea, and then you can have this dispute. Well, I've had this idea. Well, yeah, I'm sorry, but so did I. But we also know when we've watched someone work on something for 10 years, and whether you like it, whether you don't like it, doesn't matter. You respect the work, and you think, and especially when Channel 4, because it's Channel 4, because we think, no, Channel 4 we'd always believe to have higher kind of principles than that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's what it was there for. That's what it's set up for. Mm-hmm. It's had a lot of great comedy. I don't believe that anyone who works for Channel 4 doesn't know about the British comedy scene. Maybe they don't. Maybe I'm looking through rose-tinted glasses. But do you know what I mean? Had it been other people, we might have. But so that's why it's disappointed. Now, what have you done about it? That's the first question.
Well, I've obviously got my show coming up soon in Edinburgh. I've been speaking to lawyers. I've been speaking to people within the industry who've had similar issues to see what I could possibly do. And that's basically it. That's where I am at the moment. This come next week, I have to focus on my show called Goodbye, Mr. President, which is ironic. Because as far as I'm concerned, the Colonel Banjoko thing is an attempted coup. President Obonjo is going nowhere. But the irony of it is the fact that I've got a title of a show called Goodbye, Mr. President. So I just want people to know out there, the show title was created long before this debacle, and the character is going nowhere. That show is not about killing the character. It's more about a friendship between the dictator and an Englishman.
We're going to have a little break. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk, I believe, I'm sure they'll sort it out. I know we've got someone who knows about the legal aspects of this. And we'll talk, because it is, it is a very, very murky pool, the aspects of this, and whether you can or cannot, copyright, intellectual, it's so confusing. And we've all been through it. All of us have been through it. I remember back in the day, I was standing at the Comedy Store, and we were all standing at the back like you do, and the puppet theatre of the Baster Theatre of Prague were on. They were a very funny act from Australia, who used to be sort of in black costume with chickens and do puppetry. They were very funny. And I remember we were all standing there, and Nick Hancock was on stage, and Nick Hancock, bless his heart, had one of the finest 20-minute acts that anyone's ever had. It was brilliant, but it never changed. It was word perfect every time. And if you knew Nick, you could stand at the back and go through it. It was like a song that you loved. You could sing along to it. And we sang that, and the two guys from Australia were watching it and watching us and listening to it and getting the laughs and saying, wow, how long is this? Who's that? And we says, Nick Hancock. And I said, what's all this stuff he's doing? He says, his act. And I said, that's not his act. This is somebody else's act. I'm not going to mention the guy because he's still around and has done rather well for himself. And we said, don't be stupid, this is Nick's act. And they said, well, this guy's doing it in Australia. Because this was before the internet. Before YouTube, before the internet. So you could go 12,000 miles away and be anyone you wanted. You could do anybody's act. But with the internet and with YouTube, those days are surely gone. There is surely now no defence of I didn't know you were doing it. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a quick break. Hi, welcome back. This is Bob Mills, Tragedy Plus Time here on Talk Radio. If you want to get involved, you can give us a call, 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk in your message to 87222. But as I tell you every week, that'll cost you 25p plus your network charges. You could be 6 or 7 bob out of pocket after you've done that. I would tweet at Talk Radio or at Bob Mills TT. We're talking about, basically joke theft, but on a kind of major scale. So by all means, give us a call or give us a text or give us a tweet about that. In fact, rather text or tweet. Don't give us a call because I'll probably have to dump it. Because believe me, my knowledge of comedy is such that I'm pretty much, I can tell you, that joke theft 99% of the time isn't actual joke theft. It's just two people having the same idea at the same time. But we'll talk about that later. We're talking to Benjamin Bella, who basically for the last 10 years has been working on building a character, President Obonjo. And was somewhat taken aback when he saw on Channel 4 bringing this new, completely original program out about an African dictator. It's a sticky subject. It's a sticky world. I don't know enough about it, but fortunately, I'm able to call on the good offices of Mark Stevens, who's a lawyer specialising in intellectual property rights at Howard Kennedy. Hello, Mark.
Hi. Good evening.
How does this work, Mark? If you write something down and have it printed, then it's very difficult for someone to then plagiarise that, isn't it? Because it's there, it's solid.
That's absolutely right. Copyright is really about the expression of an idea. If it's just an idea, like an African dictator, then in those circumstances, that's not got copyright. What's got copyright are the jokes, the script, the get-up of the individual and the format, if you like, of any performance that you have. It is much more difficult to show an infringement of copyright in other circumstances. And perhaps the most famous case in this particular area, which I was actually involved with, was the suggestion that Dan Brown had copied the Da Vinci Code from some guys called Bagent and Lee, who'd written a substantially similar book based on a similar sort of facts, a similar architecture, but actually they had expressed their verbalization of it in a very different way, and as a consequence, they lost the case which they brought against Dan Brown.
I remember having a conversation a couple of years ago about the George Harrison thing, the My Sweet Lord, Phil Spector thing, which went on for years apparently, and had hosts and hosts of expert witnesses who were saying, no, this semitonic key in F here is slightly different. To the extent when I think he was found guilty of plagiarism in the end, but all the money he paid basically went to lawyers because it was kind of Jarndyce and Jarndyce in the end.
That's absolutely right. I mean, often these cases are not worth actually bringing because the amount of money that is involved in it actually is not worth powder and shot where lawyers are concerned. That doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't feel badly about it. I mean, I can tell you that I had dinner with a very famous writer. I gave him the idea for a film that I had in my mind and would love to have seen made. And 2-3 years later, that same film, the idea that I gave him, came out and was broadcast. And went on the circuits. I felt pretty miffed about that. I was pleased in the sense that the film had got made, but I did feel that I should have had some attribution in the sense of, from an idea given to me at dinner by Mark Stevens, or perhaps even, give me the legal work, get me involved in the project. And you obviously feel much less angry about it in those circumstances. But, part of it is life and life's rich pageant. But if we go back to the origins of copyright, the origins of copyright are back in the sort of days of ancient Rome and ancient Greece. And it was the idea that we gave people who created aesthetically pleasing works of art or, performances and plays, we gave them money so that they could continue to do the same thing. So if we allow rip-offs or plagiarisms or things which are so very substantially similar without going back to the original, then in those circumstances that kind of dilutes the approach that we have and why we have copyright in the first place, which is to reward people who create intellectually pleasing material.
I'm guessing from a legal point of view, the internet and YouTube and social media is problematic in this case because basically if you do it, and I know that Benjamin does this a lot, you put things out there, you do some nice things on your YouTube, out and about talking to people in your character. The defence is then, well, hang on a minute, he was quite happy to give it away. He wasn't. It was there for everyone to see, and no payment was made. Well,
I think that's a sort of red herring, if I may, because you can do that for a variety of reasons, whether it's publicity and all the rest of it. What it does do, though, is it comes back to Benjamin, and people acknowledge that he was the originator of it, and B, the person who should get the credit for it, and that credit sometimes comes in cash, and sometimes it comes in a different form in terms of promotion of their work, perhaps promotion of a tour. And so in those circumstances, it's to his benefit how and when he charges for his work. And whilst it may not be legally challengeable, it is certainly sharp practice to nick somebody else's concept and idea. There was a very old program that some of your listeners may be old enough to remember called Rock Follies. And
yes.
there was a famous case about that involving Thames Television, which tells you how old it was. And what had happened in that case was a bit like my case. The author gave the idea to somebody, to a producer, and in the end, the judge said, well, it may not be an infringement of copyright, but actually it was clear to everybody that this information was being imparted. It was commercially confidential. Now, of course, in those circumstances, it was a pitch to a television station, and so they couldn't just nick it and take it away. And increasingly, we're seeing that. But in this particular case, the concept, the idea of an African dictator in this circumstance is completely hilarious proposition, is out there. That doesn't mean that it's free for anybody else to go and nick. What they have to do is add some of their own originality to it as well, and I suspect that's what will happen in this case, because certainly after today's Daily Mail and other publicity, which has been pretty adverse, they'll have their lawyers crawling all over it.
Well, thank you so much. It's always great to get an expert opinion. By the way, John Sullivan, the sitcom writer, I once had the great pleasure of having a lunch with, and he said, I could, honestly, the amount of people who come to me, especially on comedy, and say, I've got a great idea for a sitcom, and I say straight away, shut your mouth. Don't tell me, don't tell anyone, because otherwise someone will steal it off you. And it's as simple as that. Shut up about it. But if you're doing something, Benjamin, if you're working at it, you can't shut your mouth. It's what you do.
Yeah.
So do you live in?
Yeah, it's and the way the comedy world is at the moment now, you have to be out there, and social media provides you with that opportunity. I mean, the other thing to just to say about this is, Bob, with all due respect, you keep talking about joke theft, but actually this is about the whole character.
Oh yes, absolutely.
The whole character has been taken.
That's what it's much more than joke theft.
It's much more than joke theft. The name, the fact that it's a fictional country, and the fact that when they put that post out there on Twitter, everyone just basically said, that is your character.
Right. Okay, we're going to have a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about brighter things. We'll talk about your Edinburgh show.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Mr. President.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The winning formula for Sunday night comedy. Tragedy plus time. With Bob Mills on Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome back. This is Bob Mills on Talk Radio, Tragedy Plus Time. And that's Gimme, 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 which is the theme tune to, what would it be called? Gimme, Gimme, Gimme. Of course it was. That's them singing, isn't it? I've never sort of realised that. Of course, it's not ABBA singing. That's them, isn't it? That's those two singing it, Kathy Burke and... What's his name, the guy? I always forget his name, but he's a very good actor. He's a very good actor. He's the guy in Notting Hill when Julia Roberts comes into the bookstore. He's his little assistant in Notting Hill. I think so, anyway. I might be totally wrong. I very often am. Benjamin, I'm talking to Benjamin Bennett, my special guest, who's been going through quite a turgid time at the moment because his character, President Obonjo, with a very slight... spelling change, it seems to have turned up on television without him. And to make matters even more ironic, he's promoting his Edinburgh show.
Yes, I am.
Which is called, again,
Goodbye, Mr. President.
Now, everyone who listens to this show knows that you have to name your Edinburgh show in about March.
Yes.
So... So rather, you could have called it the coup or anything.
Or the attempted coup.
Yeah, the attempted coup, but no, you went for that one. Like, and people are going to say, oh no, we're going to go and see Benjamin. You know, he's admitted defeat. He's given it all up. No, but that isn't the case.
No. The Colonel Banjoko thing is an attempted coup, and we are fighting. We have been fighting since the story came out, and we're trying to ensure that we get into the broadcasting studio so that we can address the nation. But on a serious note, I have a show called Goodbye, Mr. President, and it's a show about an African dictator who arrived in the UK on a state visit to see the Queen, and he decided to go to the comedy store, and that's how he started performing comedy. His people found out that he was no longer on a state visit because he enjoyed comedy so much, coup d'etat, and he remained here ever since. Whilst he was performing across the United Kingdom, he met an Englishman called Chris, who and they developed a friendship. And I don't want to give away the story, but it's a 1 hour show. It's a wonderful story about friendship between an African dictator and an English friend called Chris.
And who's he? Is it the English friend called Chris is in it, is he?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it someone we know, the English friend called Chris?
No.
Oh, okay.
Chris is an audience member.
Oh, okay,
yes,
okay.
Who became a friend.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just really ironic because the character, once people see the character on stage, they want to follow him. So the comedy doesn't end on stage. There's interaction on the website. There's interaction on social media, Twitter. There's interaction on the fan page. They love hearing from the president because he happens to be their president.
So tell us about yourself. Tell us about Benjamin. Say your name again.
My name is Benjamin Bankole-Bello. I am from Nigeria. I was born in Liverpool.
Okay.
I was born in Liverpool in the 60s. Came back. In short, I left Liverpool at the age of 5. Went back to Nigeria. Came back in 1985, and I have been here ever since. And I didn't start performing comedy straight away.
What was your life in Nigeria? Where were you, Lagos?
I was, even though most Nigerians would tell you they were in Lagos, I was definitely in Lagos. I was brought
up in there. That's good, because as you well know, it's the only city I can think of.
It's a running joke, but I was raised in Lagos. My father was a lecturer in Yaba College of Technology, which is like a university. I went to one of these best secondary schools, almost like Eton or Cambridge, Government College Ibadan, and finished my secondary school education and came back to England. And like I said, I didn't know I could perform comedy, or whatever you call British comedy at the time, until I picked up a microphone one day. And Nigerians love wedding receptions. I know it's not something that English people do. And when you tell an Englishman that, oh, you've just hosted a wedding reception, how's that going to work? It never works, but it worked. I picked up the microphone. I entertained about 300 guests. And I met someone who came to me and said, oh, you are a very funny wedding host or MC. Have you ever tried comedy? I said, what's comedy? And then he took me to an open mic gig, and I arrived at the open mic gig. I did 5 minutes, and I stomped it. And I'm not being deluded, but I stomped it.
And that, my friend, is a drug stronger than heroin.
I wish I never picked up the microphone, because it was just, that's how the drug started. And then I noticed after the couple of further gigs, I was just dying, until I realized that there's a certain technique. You have to prepare yourself, you write the notes, write the jokes, and so on and so forth. And I started performing as myself, and then I just thought, I grew up during the Nigerian military era, and I was just driving past Stevenage one day, and I saw this army uniform in an old shop, and I just thought, I think that would be nice. Let me put it on, and I put it on, and I remember someone called Ed Omiera, who no longer performs comedy. I just posted it on Facebook. And he just said, yes, you've got your mojo. And I got lots of comments, and I just thought, yeah, that's what I need to do. And then I started performing. And I'm not saying that when I first started that I knew what I was doing. As you know, it's a development process. But people knew, and not everybody supported it at the beginning. There's really interesting. There's a podcast from Rob where he says about when you start as a character comedian, people just look at you and say, oh, what's this all about? Because it's not really accepted. People think you're hiding behind the uniform.
Well, that's because when people start doing it, they haven't thrown themselves into it properly.
But I have lived and and that's why I created the character, created the show President Obonjo Stole My Identity in 2015, because I was so worried about the fact that everyone had forgotten about Benjamin. Everywhere I went to, even when I was not in uniform, Obonjo. So one night, I just performed, and I broke out of character. That's what actually happened. And this comic then approached me and said, I can't keep calling you Obonjo all the time. What is your real name? I can't call you Mr. President, what is your real name? And I said, my name is Benjamin Bankole Bello. And something just clicked. And just said, wow, this has really taken over my life. You know, I need to try and find a way of correcting this. So I said, okay, the best way to correct this is to write a show called President Obonjo Stole My Identity. And it was 45 minutes of being in character, and then I revealed the real me. And I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't do a full run. I was only there for 2 weeks. And Fringe Guru gave me 5 stars, and the Wii Review gave me 4 stars. They said I was having a mental breakdown, but it was funny. And the rest is history. So I did that, and I've continued to develop the character.
Is there a history of comedy in Nigeria? Is there
there is. It's gone really global, and I wish I took it up when I was in Nigeria. But can you imagine me telling my mom that I wanted to be a comedian?
Well, no, I can't. What would that have been like?
Oh, she would say, you know, look at our neighbor there. Their son is a doctor, a lawyer, and all that stuff. And even up till today, she still says to me, are you still doing your comedy? Are you sure everything is okay there? You're wearing a uniform and you're on the train and you're calling yourself a president. My son, I am worried. You know, so it's not something I knew I was always funny. My late father always told me I was funny. But as you know, being funny in the car and being funny in the living room is very different from being funny on the stage. But I didn't do it in Nigeria, and it's no regret. It's just that I had to focus on my studies at the time, and that was great. And when I picked it up, I just felt that I was mature enough to then start talking about things that had happened over the last 20 years or whatever it was, rather than, and no disrespect to young comics, but that's just the way it was.
Do you have a following in Nigeria, though?
It has a following in Nigeria. It actually started to have a following in Nigeria because I was calling myself President Obonjo, and there was an election about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was probably 8 years ago, and I was very good at, still very good at Photoshop. So I used to Photoshop President Obonjo in civilian clothes, and people actually thought, oh man, he's going to run for presidency. And that's what gave me the idea, actually. It actually started within the Nigerian community, because the amount of people were calling me Mr. President. But then I discovered the mainstream circuit, you know, the Comedy Store and all these other places, and I just thought I needed to change my market segment, because I really wanted to understand how comedy was being performed. And I just appeared out of nowhere in 2011. Nobody, because it's not like I went to a comedy school. I just got on stage and I started doing what I was doing, and all of a sudden comedians were talking about me, audience members were talking about me, and I gained that confidence, and I said, oh yeah, I think I know what I'm doing now, and I kept developing it. But it was really important that I wanted to create something really, really unique, because I had discovered from going to shows that the audiences were just quite bored, you know. So there were things that, and no disrespect, that comedians will say, like, it's nice to be here, it's nice to be here. Man, a dictator won't say it's nice to be here, you know, shut up,
too much.
Pledge allegiance to me, that sort of thing. So I wanted to create something different, and every time the character is on stage and does what he needs to do, either middle spot or opening or headlining, it's a memorable character, and that's was developed that following, and that's why it's a bit. Someone said to me that the people appointed by E4 or BBC Studios wouldn't necessarily know about me because I'm not a high-profile comedian, and I'm not suggesting I am, but my view is that I hope people will take inspiration from this story, that even if you are classified as a grassroots comedian, you have no agent, you have no one supporting you, you have to do this yourself, that you can still make a headway. I mean, the publicity has been great, positive, both positive and also negative. I want to focus more on the positive side of it.
You see, the comedy world, and I mean comedians and comedy fans, the people who listen to this show, go to comedy, and they know that, and they appreciate that, and they know that for every famous comic live at the Apollo, there are 1,000 comics you never heard of, but you go and see, and they know that, and they respect that, and they know how hard it is to do that. you know, how hard it is to just stand on stage and stand in front of a microphone. And you know what? The less well-known you are, the harder it is, because you've got to win them every single time.
Right.
Once you've done Live at the Apollo, you've got a little bit of grace where you've got sort of 3 minutes.
I had the pleasure of, a character had the pleasure of opening for Regina D. Hunter in October at Aberdeen Comedy Festival. And I have to say to you, they didn't come to see me. They came to see Regina D. Hunter. The announcer at the moment at that time basically said, "How many people are here to see President Obonjo?" And 2 people. "How many are here to see Regina D. Hunter?" Well over 500 people. And that was nerve-wracking. And I had to convince them that I was worth opening for Regina D. Hunter. And it was great. It was a great night. And you know, I just thought, yes, I've made it. This is the beginning. Then a couple of days later, I found myself in a pub in Norwich playing to 15 people.
Well, what a great gig that was.
And it was.
Yeah. And you're standing there having a great gig thinking, yeah, you try doing this, Reg. Yeah.
I forgot to Reg.
These are my people.
These are my people, yeah. These are my people.
But this is why, listen, this sort of thing happens. It's not the first time it happens. It certainly won't be the last time it happens. I got in a little bit of trouble for, reminding people that Richard Curtis's new film yesterday could well have been an episode of Goodnight Sweetheart.
Okay.
You know, and I apologise for that if I caused any offence, but much more so if I breached any legal rules. But I think what's sort of got people on the comedies actually really angry about this is because this is someone who's you're right, it's not joke theft, it's character theft, and it's kind of, it's almost like job theft. Do you know what I mean? This is like, hang on, this is how this guy earns his living. This isn't a joke. You know, and that's annoying enough if you think, or a bit of material. It's like, I've had this bit of material and someone else is doing it. And it's not worth having a row with because they can say, I do it slightly differently. And it's, you know, if you're Lee Mack, when Lee Mack did, the guy who did Australia's Got Talent, won it by doing a 10-minute version of Lee Mack's set. And Lee was very funny about it and said, no, it wasn't the same because I said pounds and he said dollars. You know, because you can laugh about it. But when you're a working comic, and there are thousands and thousands of working comics out there, the most this is your tools. These are your tools, this character, these expressions.
Yeah, because my concern is the fact that if they go ahead and release and commission that TV series, every time I go on stage,
you look like, he's copying that thing.
Yeah, exactly, and that's not the case.
No, absolutely not. And you can't spend the first 10 minutes explaining that.
No, I can't. No, you know, audiences judge you straight away.
Exactly. Let's have a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll make sure we get all your dates and everything for Edinburgh.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome back. This is Bob Mills here on Tragedy Plus Time on Talk Radio. If you want to take part, a lot of you have been texting and tweeting in about the subject we've been talking about. Not all of them I can read because you can't just text me and say, I saw this guy do this joke and he'd nicked off so-and-so, because it doesn't work like that. I kind of think some of these are vendetta texts as well. But you can phone me 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk on your message to 87222. But as I say, that's 25p plus charges. Now, let's say charges are 25p. I don't know. Let's say they're 10p. That's still 35p. That's 7 bob. 7 shillings to get a message to a guy on the wireless. I remember you could phone Sam DaCosta for a penny. You see? Just bear that in mind. Tweet at Talk Radio or at Bob Mills TT. And my guest in this section of the show has been President Obonjo, Benjamin Billow, who's, just to very quickly recap, Benjamin woke up, as a lot of us did, with the great news that he was going to be on television. Honestly, when someone said, look at this thing, I remember thinking, oh, here you go, well done. You stick at something, you get your rewards. But of course it's not. It's an E4 show that is going to be based around a character that sounds, to the people who know about comedy, ridiculously like the character President Obonjo that Benjamin's been doing for the last 10 years. Legally, that's as far as we can go. Obviously, Channel 4 are quite within their rights to come up with these innovative ideas and market them any way that they please. But hopefully they've not made any kind of statement yet, have they?
No. The only thing that they said was BBC Studios basically said that they came up with the original idea. That's all they said.
Yeah, okay. Well, fine. I'm going to make a film. I'm trying to think of an example. I'm going to make a film about a guy who runs a bookshop and a famous actress comes in the bookshop, but they're going to go to 3 weddings and a cremation. Yes, it's going to be a woman that owns the bookshop and a famous actor who comes in. And they're going to 3 weddings and a cremation. And I'm going to make it next year. And it's going to make me £1 billion. Yeah, that's what I'll call it. Yeah, what would you call it? I'm going to call it Westbourne Park. That'll learn them. Benjamin.
Yes.
Your Edinburgh show. Let's get that. Come on. You've got to have this off pat. You've got to know. You've got to say, yeah, Bob, it's called so-and-so. It's at this time.
Okay, so it's called Goodbye, Mr. President. It's at the Voodoo Rooms, 9:05. Starts on the 3rd of August.
The Voodoo Rooms, which are, of course, in
Westgate Street.
Westgate. There you go. These people are going to Edinburgh. They need maps.
The maps there. They'll find it. Yeah. There's only one African data.
Yeah. What time?
9:05 p.m. It's a 1-hour show. And it starts on the 3rd of August and ends on the 25th of August. 12th of August is a day off for most comedians. So the president and his wife, the 7th wife, Ujambi Migrat, will be organizing the press conference, and comedians and audience members will be able to ask any questions to the president. Venue to be confirmed, but definitely the 12th of August.
And you'll be talking, presumably, at some length about this attempted coup.
Yeah, the president will address the attempted coup and all the infighting over the last couple of days.
Do you have a good time in Edinburgh, by the way?
Oh, Edinburgh is fine. I've had 2 Edinburghs. 2015 was for 2 weeks. 2017 was for the full run. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm just having fun. I'm just having fun, and it's just something that's turned into something serious, and I started to take it more seriously. But I think the key thing is the advice I would give is just have fun, don't read the reviews, and take care of your mental health.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's really, because my view is that this is just, within Edinburgh itself, it's a bubble. Nobody else knows what's going on outside Edinburgh until...
But it can. That's a very good point to take, because I've seen people on the edge of depression, at Edinburgh, and you say, what's the matter?
Yeah.
But there was only 14 in, and Farmers Weekly have only given me 2 stars.
Yeah. I am.
And here's the other thing to remember. Sorry, here's the other thing. If you're a young comic and you're going to Edinburgh, there's a lot of reviews. Lots and lots and lots of people will come up and give you reviews. Ask yourself this question. How many comedy journalists do you know? Bruce Dessau and who else? 2 or 3. Yeah. Who do you think is writing all these other 50 or 60 reviews? Yeah. They're just people who work for the... Honestly, I've seen it happen. Yeah. People say, I'm here from this magazine. And you say, really? Well,
some of them are just students.
They've got a comedy correspondent. Well, no, I work in the post room, but I've been to a few gigs. Yeah. So don't at all take them particularly seriously.
I think you just need to be clear about what your goals are. As far as I'm concerned, the people who, President Obonjo has not been mentioned as the top 10 shows to see or top 10 shows to be recommended, and he's not worried about that. People get worried about, there's at least best jokes of the fringe. That doesn't matter. What really matters is for you to just enjoy yourself, get your audience. Even if it's a small audience, you never know who's in the audience. You never know who's going to be talking about you. And word of mouth is very, very important. That's what happened in 2015. Someone saw the show and said, this is the show we really need to review. So just be happy with the universe, and be decent, and just enjoy yourself. And be lucky that just say to yourself, you're lucky that you're doing less, actually, because there are people who can't afford to go to Edinburgh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, following on from that point of view, I'm sorry to labour the point, but so many people are about to go up to Edinburgh. what will happen, what you're dreaming of happening at Edinburgh, almost certainly, I can give you really sure isn't going to happen. However, there's a very good chance that something may happen that hasn't even occurred to you. Okay? Only one person can win, I still call it the Perrier out of spite, but only one person can win that. And a tiny, tiny majority, maybe half of 1%, will get their shows taken up and toured. But 6 or 7 of you will make a contact there, which will guide you through the rest of your comedy career. Okay? And that is much more important. It's much more important to be one of those people, trust me, than, I won it this year. Did you? Really? Okay, good. Now you got to try and win it next year, because if you don't, you can't win it again next year. That's how it works. But honestly, you'll make connection, you'll make friends, and you'll have people who see you and think, I've not seen that guy before, but I really like it, and I like what he's doing, and I'd like to help him develop it like that. It's not, comedy cannot be, it hasn't ever been, whatever they've tried to make it, a competitive sport. It's ridiculous to think like that. How are you going to do it? Are you going to have a cup? You're going to have a cup competition? Or are you going to have one day, and what, are you going to draw the rounds? So I'm up against President Obonjo. There you go. That's the tie number 1. How are you going to decide who scored, who's won? You won't, do you know what I mean? It's nonsense. And it annoys me so much. Because young people go up there believing it. I can succeed at Edinburgh, and that will take me somewhere. No, it won't. Your success is just for you. If every night you leave and say, 60 people had a really good time tonight, you've won.
Yeah, definitely. I certainly, the president wants to continue to build his army. He's got the Laughter Republic army. He wants to entertain audiences. It would be great if the president is noticed. It would be great if an agent is interested. But look, you have to be realistic about these things, as you rightly pointed out. That's the best advice you could ever give in terms of what you should expect. And I think part of the problem is that the expectations are just too high in terms of, and people don't understand how the industry works. It's taken me a while to understand, and as soon as I understood how the industry works, I accepted where I was. And I started to build on what I had developed.
One of the problems, of course, is television. People want to be on television. I want to be on television. I want to be live at the Apollo. I want to be live at the Apollo. Oh, because then 1 million people will see my act. You know what? Do 500,000 gigs with 2 people in it. Then 1 million people will see you. It doesn't make any difference. And also, this is the other thing, and I never give advice to young comics, ever. But I'm going to give this, if you're out there. You better love this job.
Yeah.
Because there may come a point that, for the majority, where you'll think, this is all there is it? Doing live comedy. And if you don't love it, I promise you, your life will be miserable. Because there's 1,000 better jobs to do if you don't like it. If you don't like them, work in a shop, don't like that, because you finish at 5 o'clock, you go home, it doesn't matter. You forget about it. But if you're a comedian, you're a comedian 24 hours a day. And if you don't like it, if you don't love it, it's a horrible life.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I've got a passion for it. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and the president is going to continue. Dictators last forever. They actually die in office. So this is what is going to happen. I actually have this vision that at the age of 80-something, I will still be performing like Dick Gregory, Honestly, can you imagine in that uniform?
There is no greater achievement than being Dick Gregory, I promise you. Benjamin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
and
Bob.
I hope everything works out.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We are
Talk Radio.
Business like a boss with a new mobile plan from 3. All the usual